This isn't your typical marketing software ad because HubSpot ain't typical. It's marketing made easy. Turn one piece of content into assets for every channel, convert leads in no time, and get a crystal clear view of your campaign performance. HubSpot can do all that and get you results fast, like double your leads in 12 months fast. Yeah. See, told you this wasn't your typical software ad. Visit HubSpot.com/marketers to get started for free. Good morning, everybody. Today's Thursday, February 20th. I'm John Weigell with Juliet, Bennett, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. A startup unicorn used to be just that, a rarity. But now, some of these unicorns that received millions to billions of dollars in funding are losing their horns. So why are these game changers drying up into dust, and how much are VC firms to blame? We'll get into all that, but before we do, let's give the news in business and tech. To start off in health, Hims & Hers, a company that's known for its affordable versions of popular weight loss drugs, hair loss drugs, etc., is now getting into at-home blood work. It announced yesterday that it acquired Sigmund & Jay, which will bring home blood tests to their slate of offerings. The company's stock has actually gone up over 500% in the past year, so they're one to watch. From there, we go to Kentucky, but actually not anymore. Kentucky Fried Chicken moved its corporate offices out of Kentucky and into Texas. Parent company Yum Brands is creating 2 new corporate centers in Plano, Texas, and Irvine, California. This is going to cause about 100 employees to make the move from Louisville, Kentucky to Plano, Texas. Juliet, how funny is this?
So funny, honestly, because it's called Kentucky Fried Chicken. Like, when Elon Musk wants to move from California to Texas, or when any other company wants to move from one place to another place, fine.
Sure.
But they're not called Kentucky SpaceX,
right. Right.
Your whole brand is Colonel Sanders Kentucky Fried Chicken. What are you going to be now? And I think they call themselves KFC now.
They do.
So I just looked to see if TFC was already a thing, and it is. It's either the Filipino channel or Trust Financial Corporation.
Oh, cool. Well, so can't take that. Can't take TFC there. It's also a chicken place in my neighborhood called Texas Chicken and Burger. So that's also gone. So looks like they're stuck with KFC.
That's actually a good point, because I'm wondering, how like barbecue is different depending on where you are? Like
yes.
Memphis barbecue is different
Oklahoma,
than St. Louis is different. Yeah, exactly.
Austin. Oh, yeah.
Is that true of fried chicken? And does that mean that it's like a different preparation style that people would be expecting from a Texas fried chicken versus a Kentucky 11 herbs and original spices situation?
Well, through my knowledge of going to Texas Chicken and Burgers at 2 a.m. after a rough night, I would say it's about the same.
Fair enough.
Moving on to some tech news, Nikola, the EV truck company founded in 2015, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Company, once projected to become the Tesla, which is really funny, for long-haul semi-trucks, struggled to deliver a finished product and listed on the stock exchange in 2020 before selling a single vehicle. And in more tech news, if you bought a Humane AI pin in spite of its many bad reviews, we regret to inform you that it's going to stop working on February 28th, adding more to the pile there. The company has advised users to download all of their data before that date, and it will refund customers within the 90-day return period. As for Humane, HP is actually buying the company's IP for $116 million and is transitioning its employees to HP IQ, a new team focused on building an intelligent ecosystem across HP's products. So life is there left to live for the Humane team. And finally, Apple announced the new $599 iPhone 16e yesterday. The lower cost phone has the same processing power as the more expensive iPhone, thanks to Apple's A18 chip, but it just got one camera lens. It hits the market later this month, so we'll see how they do pursuing the cheaper iPhones. And on to the main story today. We're talking some startup unicorns which are not getting the funding that they once were. To talk some specifics on this, first, Juliet, what kind of troubles are these startup unicorns having right now?
They're having trouble being unicorns.
Sad.
A unicorn, as you may know, is a startup valued at $1 billion or more, really having trouble hanging on to those valuations or exiting, which of course would be being acquired for even more money or, ideally a really big splashy IPO. That's just not happening.
Yeah, it seems like that's just not a thing anymore. A lot of these companies sprung up in the past few years, and it looks like they were such a rarity and not so much anymore a rarity, which is leading a lot of investors to kind of clutch their funds a little more.
Mm-hmm. Right. So what we're looking at is, Bloomberg came out with an interesting article saying it was the era of the unicorn zombie. It seems to me, like a person who is admittedly not an expert in this arena, that there's a couple of things going on at the same time.
Okay.
So it's hard for a startup in the first place.
Sure.
Being a startup, it is difficult. Carta tracked 4,369 U.S. startups founded in 2018. And of those, 2,707 have shut down and just 15 have IPO'd.
Ooh.
So for any startup, it's tricky. Anybody who's a founder, anybody who's an entrepreneur, I'm sure we have many in our audience, you know that it's hard.
Yeah.
I don't know, unless your dad is like a billionaire or something, it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Unicorns, that's even rare. That's even trickier. They're supposed to be rare. That is why they are named after a mythological creature that is rare. It's even harder to become a unicorn. But what happened was there was this big boom during the pandemic. Tech was everything. So there were a lot of unicorns that were born during that time. In 2021, Bloomberg reports that there were actually 354 of them that achieved unicorn status in that year.
Wow.
So you got way more unicorns than you used to have. Everything's going great. Pandemic ends. What are we doing right now? We've got really high interest rates. Eggs are very expensive. We talk about that all the time. There's a lot of inflation.
Sure.
When it comes to funding, we've got a lot of VCs who are not quite so willing to throw down a ton of money right now. So we've got more conservative investing in pretty much every sector, unless you happen to be an AI startup, in which case, good for you. You're part of a current buzz. But a lot of these high-flying startups, they have either shut down, they failed to IPO, or they were acquired for much less money than they were worth before.
Yeah, I know you wrote a little bit about this a few weeks ago, but Beyond Meat is kind of one of them that is struggling to get funding. And another one you mentioned here is Convoy, that is struggling to get funding as well.
Mm-hmm. And that is part two of what seems to be the problem. Mm-hmm. So I was reading a Stanford Business Report back from 2017 where it was warning that a lot of these so-called unicorns were very overvalued. So kind of like fake unicorns. Maybe just like a horse with one of those horn hats on, that kind of unicorn.
Yeah, a horse with a Mickey Mouse hat on.
Yes. This study back from 2017 or so found that there were about 100 U.S. unicorns, and they were reporting values that were an average of 51% higher than their actual worth. Because I was like, okay, well, how does that happen? So some of these startups, according to the study, are making generous promises to preferred shareholders. And this renders the common stock nearly worthless. And then it provided an example from 2008. SpaceX offered investors twice their money back and other favorable terms, which led to more investments, which boosted the company's valuation. So you've got people pouring money into this for whatever reason, making it seem like, this company is worth X.
It's a big deal.
But it's not.
Right.
Just last week, I think we were talking about alternative proteins. We were talking about some of those fake meat companies that were valued at $10 billion. And it was well, not really. It was never really worth $10 billion. So we're seeing kind of a couple things here. We're seeing unicorns that were never really unicorns, coupled with the end of this COVID era boom and these high interest rates and more conservative investing. And then, of course, the new tech buzz, which is AI, all eyes on AI now. So there's a lot happening right now. And basically, it is just a really hard time for these companies and startups in general.
I guess from what you've written, it seems like it's kind of evened out now, where before they were getting a lot higher than they were actually valued at. And now it seems like it's teetering the other way, where a lot of these startups are getting valued a little lower or getting a lot lower investment than they would initially want.
Right. That may be the case. But, a lot of these startups are unprofitable.
Sure.
And they're still unprofitable. We've seen this happen with Uber. I think one of the most famous examples of a company that got a really high valuation and then sort of blew a lot of their money and is now nowhere to be seen, essentially, is WeWork.
Yeah, sure.
So, I think the era of high-flying times is over. And now things are a lot more conservative, and maybe people need to be focusing more on okay, let's achieve a profit versus really wild growth and hiring rappers to perform at your company's annual meeting or whatever it is people were doing with this money. I think that's what WeWork did. I can't remember.
Yeah, it seems like the boom has really ended
Yeah.
for a lot of startups. And I don't know when the next one's going to be. That's a forecast out of my purview, but it sounds like it's not going to be anytime soon.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'd need another COVID.
Or similar situation, probably. How's that bird flu doing, by the way?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's a good time for the fake proteins to come back with fake eggs.
True.
There was some speculation at the end of the Bloomberg article that I did find interesting because it was talking about how Linda Khan will no longer, be in charge of the FTC. So who knows what sort of shifting will happen there. So like I said, I'm not an expert in this by any means, but you know what I did read that I thought was really interesting that I would advise to anyone who's like, I want to know more about this. There is a website called Naked Capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoy their post from February 19, so yesterday, that says, after we amplified warnings of wildly overvalued unicorns, they crash and burn. And that's a great read. So if you're like, I want to know more about this from a person who really knows their stuff, I would check out that blog post.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, I will check it out myself. Sounds great.
And if you just want to hear about more unicorn deaths, I just saw a trailer for a movie with Jenna Ortega where they get attacked by unicorns in the forest. That looks pretty fun.
Dang, unicorns dying everywhere.
Exactly.
All right, and that'll do it for us today. Thanks for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. Our editor is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got tons more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. Go subscribe at thehustle.co/email and follow us on Instagram at The Hustle Daily. We will see you Friday.
New year, new resolutions. And this year on the Best Idea Yet podcast, we're revealing the untold origin stories of the products you're obsessed with. And we promise you have never heard these before.
Ever wonder how the iconic Reese's Peanut Butter Cup was invented? Because it was by accident. H.B. Reese, a former frog salesman,
True story,
stumbled upon the idea after accidentally burning a batch of peanuts.
Classic.
Proving that sometimes our best ideas arise from what seem like our biggest mistakes.
And Jack, did you know there's a scientific explanation why humans crave that surprising combo of peanut butter and chocolate?
I didn't, but it sounds delicious.
It is delicious.
So, if you're looking to get inspired and creative this year, tune in to the Best Idea Yet. You can find us on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts.
And if you're looking for more podcasts to help you start this year off right, check out New Year, New Mindset on the Wondery app. Who knows? Your next great idea could be an accident that you burned. This is Nick.
And this is Jack.
And we'll see you on the Best Idea Yet.